Good evening, ladies and gents. It's Jacob on the one up top. And I'm here after a little while to talk again about the only foolish things that happened with my club, Tottenham Hotspur. Before I go into everything I'm going to speak about, I want to show some love for the people that have been watching my videos, the people that have subbed up. I'm trying to get to the 200 mark, so I think I'm like 6 off. So I want to keep pushing and helping the channel grow. So love to you all, and the people that are tuning in that haven't tuned in yet. Make sure that you hit the notification bell as well as subscribing. It don't cost you anything, and you can catch up with all the stuff that I'm going to do going forward in the future. But yeah, let's get into it, man. I can't be too long because I'm struggling with a bit of a toothache, even though I'm trying to put this brave face on. But I had to get a video out. I've been thinking about it all day. So yeah, so, as we all know, we've all been sweating it out in an international break. If I'm honest, the way that my club has been going in the last couple of weeks, I wish it was another 2 weeks because I've enjoyed the break. But, I'll do it stage by stages. It's only been sort of 10 days and everything's happening with Tottenham as it usually is. That's why I always call it Only Fools in Tottenham, because there's always fools around this club. So the first thing I want to talk about, which is the one thing that a lot of people have been talking about, whether it's true or if it's significant, I don't know, but it's to do with the ordeal that occurred in 2008 when we signed Jermaine Defoe, or I think when we sold him, something like that. An unlicensed agent was used. And apparently it was looked into in 2008. The FA ruled it as, nothing doing, we move on. But then, in typical Tottenham fashion, 15 years later, it's resurfaced again. This is why I say Tottenham are a banter club, because this could only happen to Tottenham. They look into stuff that happens the last time we won a trophy. Do you get it? Like, it's one of those where, if we're talking about all people doing illegal activities within football, Chelsea and Man City, the biggest corporates at the minute, people are talking about deduction of points or, stripping of titles. So conveniently, the last time we won a trophy is when they've decided to investigate, which doesn't surprise me. When I deep it, I think to myself, if there's one thing that Daniel Levy doesn't get wrong, it's the business side of things. Signing players, doing everything proper. Like, in terms of everything off the grass, he's immaculate. So my theory is that there's probably nothing doing when you look at it in Daniel Levy. But when you realise that Harry Redknapp's involved in this situation, that's when you start to wonder, this could be bigger than we think. Remember that famous interview that Harry Redknapp had where he was called a wheeler and dealer and told the cameraman in the nicest way possible to F off. But he's been caught in little things like this where, he's got away with most of them. But, you look at Harry Redknapp, you meet him in the pub and you're having a pint and you talk to him, you'd think, yeah, he's somebody that could get me some dodgy stuff. You're not trying to be stereotypical, because people might even think that of me meeting in the pub, but that's how it goes, isn't it? But yeah, it's like, when it happened to Luton in the same year, they got deducted 10 points. A few years after that, Leeds, I think someone within their staffing got a year ban from football and like a £250,000 fine. So there is a little bit of concern there, because like I say, if Tottenham are a big club, we're not elite. The elite clubs get away with these things. You've got Man City and Chelsea, spending money through the roof. They always have been. FFP have, sanctioned them, and they're still, borderline not talking about it, but they want to talk about something that we did 15 years ago. Now, I believe that if Tottenham were a team of that ilk, things get swept under the carpet. But, when you look at Everton, Tottenham, big clubs. They are big clubs, everybody in the world knows them. They're big in England. Historically, both won a lot of cups. But in the grand scheme of things, we're not elite. You know, Man City are elite. Chelsea are elite. Man United are elite. Liverpool are elite. Arsenal, elite. Tottenham, no. And, you know, when you're of that stature, the media sweep things under the carpet. When you're an Everton, a Tottenham, you know, an Aston Villa, they're just going to come for you. You know, how have Aston Villa been dropped 10 points before City and Chelsea? Like Chelsea, in Man City, the whole world can see what's going on. I don't need FFP and all this stuff to tell me what's going on with them. They're spending ridiculous amounts of money, and it's not really being accounted for. You know, they're doing things through illegal streams, and we're not talking about it, but we want to talk about a Jermaine Defoe deal that's worth 8 million. Like, it's a bit wild. But yeah, it's a Tottenham thing to do. You know, we've had the best. You know, Tottenham have had the best start of a campaign if any manager in the Premier League. So, you know, when you're watching Tottenham and you know, as a fan of Spurs for 30 years, when it's going so well, you know, there's a lot of Tottenham fans that are optimistic about what goes on. Ange, this, you know, is only, what, 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were talking about Tottenham Hotspur being a nightclub and all, you know, everybody's like, everybody loves Ange. We're here now and it's all panic stations really quickly. But that's how Tottenham is. And, you know, if you're my age or older and you ain't figured that out yet, then, boy, you better go speak to your doctor about preparing you for blood pressure issues, because that's what this club will do to you. But again, I don't know. You know, there's a lot of talk about the story coming out from a gooner. You know, for me, there's no link for me there. It's like, if he supports Arsenal, so what? If the story's true, and the story's true. I don't think there's too much to it, because even though Sky Sports are really late on things, you generally see that if it's on Twitter or it's on, you know, all these other social media platforms, that Sky Sports will stick it up in a day or two later. But when I've been looking there and watching it on the TV, I'm not seeing anything. So it's probably maybe leaning towards somebody just bringing it out to either mock Tottenham or paper over the cracks for what's really going on. You know, I don't trust the Premier League to do what they're supposed to do to Man City and Chelsea, but they were very quick to do it to Everton. And even when they did it with Everton, why are they not doing it last year? You know, there's 4 or 5 teams that are looking at that thinking we would have finished in a better position, or better yet, finished in the Premier League if Everton had did it at the right time. So, you know, I'm not going to go into too much about other clubs. It's about Tottenham. If it happens, it is what it is, and it wouldn't surprise me. I'll be on here doing another show about it. So, yeah, that's the first foolish point on Spurs. Leading on from that, you know, in terms of Tottenham and Everton that I've just spoken about, Everton trying to use Spurs as leverage and saying that that the only reason why they've gone into certain problems financially is because Tottenham wouldn't pay the money that they wanted for Richarlison. I'm like, you know, I haven't looked into it properly, but in the fundamental scheme of things, why don't you just not sell him then? Do you know what I mean? If you thought he was worth 80 million and Tottenham are like, we got 60 million, no matter whether you're in financial troubles or not, you just say, no, I don't want to do it. Now, if you feel that you can get 80 million for Richarlison elsewhere, you should have gone and got it. But the likelihood is you weren't. And Daniel Levy, I believe, like I said it last season, Richarlison wasn't bought by Conte. It was bought because Daniel Levy's looked at Everton and thought, yep, you're in a financial crisis. Let me take my pick. I'll take your best player, and it will look like fantastic business because he's Brazil's number 9, and if he bangs goals, he replaces Harry Kane. Called it as soon as it was bought, but then everybody's talking about, oh no, he can play with Harry Kane. No, he was bought to replace him, and he's doing a terrible job at it. It's the same with Jack Grealish, you know. Jack Grealish, you know, as soon as Aston Villa's figures were brought out, Levy thought, yeah, I'm going to go there and take the piss. And he tried to. You know, he took the ridiculous amount of piss that, you know, Joshua Noman 3 million for a player that Man City 5 years later, or whatever it was, thought was justified to pay 100 million. Like, madness. But yeah, if Everton played their card right, so they were doing crazy things like buying Gylfi Sigurdsson for 50 million. All these mad players, Yerry Mina. Just so many players that um, lost their transfer value. Whatever business you are, if you buy something and it devalues and you can never get more money for it, your business is going to go down the cars, isn't it? So I just wanted to have my point on that. It's like Everton are saying that, they lost out, but if I'm honest, I feel that we lost out. You should have just kept the player because 60 million and he's been an absolute flop. I'm not saying it's his fault because maybe he just wasn't good enough or, he's had his injuries and stuff, but it is what it is. But yeah, I think, just to conclude on all what I've just mentioned, I think that the reason why these little niggly stories are coming out, I think, is because, if you're Daniel Levy, you're looking at Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, and you're saying, take them three clubs and don't give them the Arab or the Todd Bowley money, and the Tottenham fans aren't complaining, whether the football's not. If you take them three out and tell them to fund themselves based on what they truly are, Chelsea aside, the other clubs weren't really doing much. Newcastle back in the day with Alan Shearer and Les Ferdinand and all them guys, yeah, once upon a time they were a team, and I used to love Newcastle. But then, since then they've been relegated twice and if they haven't been relegated, they've been mid-table fodder. So it's like all of a sudden they're coming through, qualifying for Champions League. And, realistically, they haven't spent that much money, but they're in a position where they can. They bought Tonali for 70 mil. And, he's got a war chest there, hasn't he? So he's not in any problems. And at some point, when Eddie Howe's not doing great, they'll go and get an absolute world-class manager and start buying just like Chelsea and Man City do because they can. But I believe that Daniel Levy is putting the pressure on the FA in the background. They'll be saying, like, come on, what's happening? Because, people think that Man City and Chelsea and all these guys will get relegated. They won't. But let's say they do. And Daniel Levy says, look, if we're following the rules here, why are they not getting sacked? Why are they not getting dropped? Why are they not getting put in there? Why are the titles not getting stripped? All of that title strips and all that, it's not going to happen. I'm sure other clubs are putting the pressure on, but, it's not going to happen. But I think because he's putting the pressure on, these are where these funny stories are coming out on Tottenham, because it gets to the point where they're saying, all right, we'll put the pressure on you then. You have the pressure. What was you doing in 2008? What was you doing with Richarlison? It's just a paper over the cracks, and they use little old Tottenham to do that. But yeah, speaking of little old Tottenham, we go on to the most important thing for me, which is on the grass, and on a lead on from what's been happening, prior to the international break and leading into the game that we got at the weekend. So, I'm not going to go into it too tough. More so when I've had the international break to analyse what really has been happening, because, in the space of, it felt like a day, Ange Postecoglou, he's got 3 managers of the months, Maddison's purring, player of the year people are talking about. Son's back. Bissouma, the best centre midfielder in the world. Van der Ven, what a steal. Vicario, where did they find this guy? Right? But there's a lot of Tottenham fans, and not even Tottenham fans, neutral fans, all talking about Tottenham winning the league. Tottenham, this new thing. But I'm a realist, man. Like, whenever I watch Tottenham, even though we'd have a good game, we'd play Liverpool and beat them, whether it was dodgy or not, we haven't beaten them for ages, Played well against Arsenal, beat Man United. Every game, I would just, I'd watch it, I'd get gassed, I'd do a video, but then I'd go to sleep and just be looking in the sky or the ceilings, and to say, when's this going to end, man? When's it going to end? When's it going to crumble? When are we going to flop? When's the bottles going to come out? When are we going to, be in 8th position after apparently being in a title race? And it came imminently. I said it in the video that I didn't feel we were going to lose the game to Chelsea, but I just didn't sit right with me. I remember making my way home from Monday and thinking, we ain't going to win this game, man. Like, I said a draw just to be optimistic, but deep down I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if we lose this one because it's Chelsea, man. They always seem to mess us up. But, you know, I don't think anybody in Premier League history has, you know, let's say we were in a title race. I don't believe we were, but a lot of people thought that, you know, if you're top of the league, of course you are. But, you know, I've never seen it where a team have got a style, a way of playing, it's daring, it's attacking, goals left, right and centre. And everybody's talking about how well they are, and then it just crumbles in an hour. So I sat there and thought to myself, you know, what actually happened there? And when you look at our team, one thing that we lack is a real leader, a real character that not only just leads by example, leads full stop. I think the game in itself, you know, football it lacks those leaders. You know, I'm talking like your Vieiras, your Roy Keanes, your Gerrards, you know, people of that ilk. It's missing it anymore. You know, it's all about a captain being the nice guy that leads by example, which is part and parcel of the package. But in the round, you know, when your team's up against the wall, I don't believe these captains are what's required. You know, you look at Martin Odegaard at Arsenal, you know, quality player, you know, arguably one of the best midfielders last season. You know, even though he's off form, he's still a top player. But when Arsenal are down in the dumps, he goes missing because if the football doesn't do the talking, his presence doesn't signal leadership. You know, when their backs up against the wall, you'd look at someone like a Saliba that's looking at, you know, he's even though the back against the wall, he's winning the last ditch tackles. He's, you know, organising his back line. A Ramsdale maybe, you know. When you look at Man United, you know, Man United, they've always had top captains. They've got Bruno Fernandes, you know, when their backups against the wall, he's throwing his toys out the pram and just sulking and moaning at everybody. That ain't a captain. That's a little baby. Do you know what I mean? This is the guy that's leading arguably the biggest club, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and he's just petulant child. You know, and you look at so when I look at our club, it's like Son, great example to the kids, professional, works hard. When we was in that Chelsea game and everybody's losing their head, Son just was like, I don't know what's going on here, but you're supposed to be the guy that, you know, grabs an Adoji. Romero, just, hey boys, calm it down, man. Like, what's going on? I know it's London Derby. Keep your heads, man. We're going to lose the game doing that. We haven't got anybody like that. You know, I look around, you got, you know, if someone's going to say to me, who's the closest person to that? Probably Højbjerg. But I think Højbjerg in the dressing room isn't respected enough to go around and speak to people because he's not, a member of the first team and he's been touted to leave and he doesn't really have many good games. Even though he's a candidate because of his posture and the way he conducts himself, when he's actually playing, he's not doing the business. So it's like, you know, effectively, Tottenham haven't got a skipper. You know, a lot of clubs these days have got sort of 3 or 4 players that if you could mould them into one, they would make a great captain. So it's like if you had the arrogance of James Maddison, you had the get up and get go attitude of Højbjerg, the lead by example of Son, and then the way that Basuma plays, you know, full-blooded, taking risks. If you had all that in one player, then you'd have the perfect captain. But you've got 4 people and no one really knows how to stand up. So in that game, we just lost our head. You know, and just shouting at the players, and it's not registering. You know, and there's a lack of discipline, not because of what Andrew's doing, but because there's nobody. We haven't got a captain. And then if we have got somebody that you'd think, right, someone to pick them by the neck and, you know, by the scruff of the neck and shake them about, he's the one getting sent off in Romero. The guy's a loose cannon, man. Like, he nearly broke a compatriot's leg, like his brother. Nearly broke his leg in the London Derby. And actually meant it. Do you get what I'm saying? But that's going to be our vice captain. You know, Son just looked like he wanted to cry, if I'm honest. And, you know, it's not in Son's repertoire. Son's not that guy. Son's not somebody that's gonna grab someone by the neck. He'll chat to them and say, boys, what's going on? But it's like, you know, not being rude, if I was playing for Tottenham and Son was my captain, I'd respect him fully. Like, what a player. You know, you've done so much with Tottenham, you're the captain. But if he's having a go at me, I'll just be like, all right, bruv, yeah, sweet. You know, I generally feel that if I think Son would be more scared of me than me being scared of Son. Like if you did some sort of, you know, measure up on a heart monitor, I think he'd be more shook of me, even though he's a 10 times better player, right? There's nobody there that comes. I don't look at anybody in our 11 and think, "Phew, if he had a go at me in the changing rooms, I better listen." Only person is probably the manager. Anybody else can shut up, man. And that's not me being disrespectful or lacking any sort of respect. It's just you lot don't come across like you're going to scare me. There's no Vincent Company there that, you know, that he might grab you by the neck and put you up against the wall and say, cost us a game, innit? None of that. So I feel that discipline and leadership is what's letting us down. You know, we went away to Wolves. I was at the game and you could see it clearly. It's just like, even though we were 1-0 up for ages, I wasn't looking at anybody that I believed was going to go and pick this game up by the scruff of the neck, whether they were going to defend or attack or create or, you know, put some energy into the game. I just looked at him and thought, there ain't nobody here. And then as soon as it went 1-1, I knew we were going to lose that game. So I think, you know, it's very hard to just go and buy that player. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of captains are already established in big teams. And there's a lot of captains that are made. You know, you look at someone like Ledley King, for instance, came onto the scene, very quiet, humble lad, and grew into one of our greatest ever captains. You look at someone like, again, I allude to Patrick Vieira, you know, came into the club, an unknown, left an absolute monster. Same with Roy Keane. Roy Keane came in, a bit of buzz about him from Nottingham Forest. Again, another crazy captain. But that's what not just Tottenham need, a lot of clubs need. And I think that's why, you know, even when you look at Man City, you know, their captain, De Bruyne, quality player. Is he really somebody that I'd be shook of? Or is somebody that I'd be like, great example, you know, when he ain't him, they've got Ruben Diaz. Great player. Are you going to shake me up? No. You know, Liverpool, Van Dijk might be somebody that I look at and think, yeah, because I see him, you know, ruffle a few people up. I've seen him cover for Andy Robertson and then go mad at him. You know, maybe he's one of the closest ones to it. You know, there might be others that you can think of, you can put in the comments. But I generally think that is part of the reason for our demise, along with the injuries. You know, injuries are part and parcel of the game. We can't just sit there and say it's us lot. We had the opportunity to get a Maddison and another number 10. It's so obvious that if you don't get another number 10 and Maddison gets injured, who is an injury-prone player, we're going to struggle. And that's what's happening right now. You know, if Son comes back injured, we've got Richarlison, who's also injured. You've got to, you know, I always relate it to Football Manager. You know, Football Manager and real football, in the grand scheme of things, are two different things. But when you look at its simplicities, it's like, if I want a team and I've got my starting 11 and I think, mate, if I can keep that team fit, we're nice. But if he gets injured, I need someone else of that ilk. So whether you're going to get them in from the youth setup or you're going to go and spend, you know, 20, 30 million on somebody that can learn from this player who can fit in for 3-4 games, go and do it. But Tottenham never do that. You know, we had Harry Kane for God knows how long, and what a player he was. But the whole talk over every season was like, what if Harry Kane gets injured? What if Harry Kane gets injured? And we seem to not learn from that, because now it's like, well, we've got Son now. What if he gets injured? Maddison, what if he gets injured? Now he's injured. You know, you got the two in Basuma and Sarr going to African Cup of Nations. Son's going to be disappearing after Christmas. But we just sit there and just go, oh, and just sort it. It doesn't matter who. You could have Pep in this situation. The players that are coming in aren't good enough. And that, along with the discipline and the fact that it's Tottenham Hotspur, are the reason why, if we don't get our act together quickly, we could be singing, you know, Christmas stories and Christmas songs, and find ourselves in 8th position. It's that real, because there's a lot of teams that are picking up consistency in points. You know, Man United, you know, like Jamie Redknapp said the other day, they're the informed team in the Premier League. Man United, everyone's been mocking them, but they're in form team. So, you know, you look at Spurs, it was only 4 or 5 weeks ago, they were talking about can Tottenham do a Leicester? Now, and Man United were having the worst start of their season, we've had our best. Man United are 5 points behind us. So, you know, if we drop a banana skin this week and a Man United win, they're 2 points behind us. Apparently, it was the worst start to their worst start ever for them, and it's our ever best. That's how mad this league is. But then that's what puts everything into perspective. You know, when people are telling me about Tottenham are going to win the league, Tottenham will definitely get Champions League. I'm like, no. You can't tell me after 10 games that's going to happen. We could have gone 10 games and won them all. I'll still be saying no. You got to look at it. Sort of February is when you start thinking, right, we've got to gather the troops. So once the January transfer's out the window, you've brought in a couple of recruits, you're looking at your squad and you're looking at the table and you're third and you're 4 points behind Man City, that's when we've got to start talking business. Do we start taking the FA Cup seriously, or do we dump ourselves out of there to focus on this league? You know, if you're still in the Champions League or, you know, Europa League, whatever, League Cup, do we take that seriously, or do we focus on the Premier League? But there's no point doing that now. Do you know what I mean? He's been proven. You lost 2 games and you've dropped into like 4th now. Dropped, just like that. Bam. We were top of the league. You lose 2 games, finished. And, you know, when we look at the up-and-coming fixtures, Tottenham have got the opportunity to regroup and find themselves in a good position again. You know, when you're looking at this weekend, Arsenal got a tricky fixture away to Brentford. Liverpool playing Man City. So, you know, effectively, you could have all 3 teams above you drop points. And if you win your game, it's like, it's still tricky, but it's another game out the window and you could find yourself top again. You know, that's how weird this league is. But, yeah, you know, if I'm going to move on to, before I wrap up on this video, I'll move on to the fixture that we've got coming up, which is, we're at home on Sunday to Aston Villa. Aston Villa are a team that, since I've moved to the Midlands, I've watched quite a lot. You know, one of my old bosses had a box at the Villa ground, and we used to go to whatever game you wanted, whether it was Tottenham, Swansea. You know, we went to watch Man United there, Liverpool, Fulham. You know, when you, if you've ever been to Villa Park, you can see that no matter whether they've been relegated or, you know, they're doing whatever, they generally are a big club. You know, the stadium's a wicked stadium. Still an old school stadium, but very much a nice stadium. You just get the sense of a big club there when you go there. Not elite, you know, they're probably in the same sort of bracket as us. And that's pretty much what it is now as well. You know, when I look at Aston Villa, everybody's talking about Ange Ball, but Unai Emery, when you're playing them like at home, I fancy Villa against anybody at home. You know, even if you put Man City in that bracket, they're just blowing teams away. Away, not so tough. You know, the last time I think I've seen them away, they drew to Wolves, and they lost to Nottingham Forest. So, you know, when you're looking at the way they're blitzing people at home and then they're, you know, dropping points there, you kind of think, you know, if they turn up like they do against Forest, you know, even with the injury concerns, I think, you know, Tottenham would like to think they can get a point. And get a result, sorry. But they're playing some good football. You know, Diaby's a player that no one's really talking about, but he's, you know, up there with the players of the season so far. Ollie Watkins is doing the business again. And they've got a lot of players that are really fitting into Emery's philosophy. You know, you've got John McGinn. Douglas Luiz is putting up trees now. Pau Torres, another player that's up there for signing of the season. Ezri Konsa. You know, they've got a good solid team, and they're another team that, you know, if they stick with their first 11, they can give anybody a match. And I do, you know, if we were full strength, different story. But I do fear again for our defence with Ben Davies and Eric Dyer, because Wolves haven't really got the best attackers, but they had, you know, people like Nelson Semedo, Adam on toast. You know, it wasn't. With me, even I was watching us at Wolves the other week, I was thinking a game ahead and thinking, well, if we can't handle Wolves here, Aston Villa's pace is going to destroy us. Whether we're at home or away, it doesn't really matter. I go as far as saying if we played the way we did against Chelsea, Aston Villa this season have been better than Chelsea. So, you know, if we're going to push up with Eric Dyer and Davies, we're not going to get the result that we want. You know, I did think that Romero was back, but he's serving a 3-game ban. There's been signs of Van de Ven in training, but is he going to come back and play against Villa? That would be a miracle. The only good thing is Adoji's back. We really missed him, but again, he had a stinker against Chelsea. Should have been sent off before he actually got sent off. And then, you know, without Maddison, there's just no creativity there. You know, I think we need to give Lo Celso a go, because with Højbjerg, Sarr and Bissouma in midfield against Wolves, that's what I wanted, because I thought this defence needs protecting. But Højbjerg, it was just pointless playing him, because he wasn't doing anything. He was just running around barging loads of Wolves players. You know, you wouldn't have seen that on the telly, but watching it live, you're just going around trying to start fights instead of being in position. So, yeah, it's going to be a tricky game. We have to win this game, because I think once we've got Man City coming up, Newcastle, West Ham, we've got to, you know, if we beat Aston Villa, we take it into the following week and just say that we get a win, you know. But, you know, I want to wrap up the video by giving you my predictions. And as you all know, I always go with my head as well as my heart. So my heart is where I go with optimism. And with my heart, I'm going to go 2-1 Tottenham. Just because of the way I saw Aston Villa play against Forest away. So that gives me maybe a little bit of confidence. And if we've got any injuries coming back, then it fills me a little bit more with more hope. But if I want to go with my head, even though Villa are in bad way, I honestly think we could lose this 2-0. Just because they struggled against Forest, because Forest set up 2 banks of 4 and kept hitting them with the counter-attack. I don't think Tottenham are going to do that. They're going to keep pushing up. And if we're pushing up with Eric Dyer and Davies, and we've got Diaby and Ollie Watkins to deal with as a 2 up front, we'll just get picked off. You know, Ollie Watkins is one of the best strikers in the league. Diaby's one of the best forwards in the league. And if they're not coming wide, we've arguably got the worst centre-half pairing in the league. So the worst centre-half pairing against one of the best and more dynamic forward line pairings. It's only a recipe for one thing, isn't it? You know, whether we dominate midfield or not, Pau Torres' passing is immaculate. All he's got to do is keep dinking it over the top and say to Ollie Watkins, keep making them runs. At some point, you're going to be onside and it's going to be a goal. I don't feel that we're going to... You know, I just don't see how we score without Maddison. You know, if Son gets an opportunity to create from scratch, cool. Or if he gets a penalty or something like that, maybe. But I just don't... You know, I watched this against Wolves and we were so pathetic. So unless Lo Celso comes in and changes that for me, I can see us losing the game. But with my heart tells me that the crowd would be up for it and we could nick the win and take us into the next week. So, yeah, that's me done and dusted. I hope you guys have a blessed weekend, a blessed time over the weekend. You know, stay safe, stay blessed, and just, yeah, keep it moving, man. But like I said, remember to comment, like, share, subscribe, all of that. I'll be doing a video on the weekend after, you know, before and after the Villa game. And I'm going to try and keep it repetitive with the only fools in Tottenham, because, as I said, I can see it just getting more foolish by the week. So, love, I'm going to go to bed now. Jacob on the one up top.